sneaky Hembo time after Virginia wins the title last night. Hey, Farnham, they're the third team in the last 20 years to win the title with 3 or fewer losses. Who are the other 2?
All right, I'm going to go with Kentucky in 2012, and I'm going to go with Kansas in 08.
Oh, my goodness, he got it exactly right. The Kentucky team was the Anthony Davis team.
Try again, Hembo.
And that
you need to get harder.
Kansas team
That's
won
2 in a row.
Overtime. Oh, Farnham gets it done. And our coverage of the championship game continues here in just a minute, because Hembo will be incredulous as we welcome Tony Bennett to the program. The victorious coach of UVA will join us live in 15 minutes. But between now and then, we got other business to get to, including more from this Aaron Rodgers. Again, we played you this lengthy bit of sound from him just a few moments ago, responding to that report in Bleacher Report last week that was extremely critical of Mike McCarthy and very critical of Rodgers himself. And to sort of sum it up, again, we played you in detail a few moments ago. To sum it up, he strongly defended his former coach, Mike McCarthy, and blasted some of the former players who were quoted in the article. And so I want to bring in our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. What do you make of all of this? What should we be taking away from this as the Packers begin the next chapter of their organization?
Well, look, blame the media is not a new concept. Unfortunately, we live in a time when maybe more than ever, and in arenas far more significant than ours, newsmakers are able to get the public on their side and say, oh, this is the media. This stuff from Rodgers is right out of the Blame the Media handbook. This is the writer's trying to make a name for himself. The players involved are irrelevant. And then a straw man argument of, well, if this was the case, then why would I have re-signed? Look, there are answers to all that. At the bottom of this is a player doing what he has to do so he can walk back into the locker room, so he can face the fans. All that. The perception of Aaron Rodgers as sort of arrogant and aloof and condescending has been out there for a while. The story obviously brought it to light in tremendous detail with on-the-record quotes from former teammates. But he's still there. He's still playing quarterback for the Packers. He's still operating in the public arena. So he has to come out and strongly defend himself. All eyes were already on this situation. The intensity of the scrutiny on Rodgers and the Packers will only ratchet up as a result of all of this.
All right, I agree with you on most, if not all of that. Let me get to the other dramatic thing here. We just talked about the AB thing. I'll quickly pop up all of these social media pieces because it started with Antonio Brown just not letting it go, ripping JuJu Smith Schuster on social media. Justin Reed, who plays for another team entirely, Houston, tweeting about AB. I respect his game, but I can't wait to smash this dude. Eric Weddle, who's now on the Rams, tweeted, no need for that, showing true colors right here, no respect for this dude. Antonio Brown, meanwhile, doubling down, posting a screenshot of a DM that JuJu Smith-Schuster sent him looking for advice back in 2015. Antonio Brown took this down, but as we always say about social media, those things on their own level stay up forever. What are you hearing around the league about Antonio Brown, who seems to have gotten everything he wanted and just will not let it go?
He won't let it go. And look, I guess the impetus of this was a tweet or an Instagram post pointing out that JuJu Smith-Schuster was voted team MVP of the Steelers last year. Look, talking to people close to Antonio Brown and around that situation when it was all going down before the trade, it became clear that this is a player who felt slighted and that the emergence of Smith-Schuster as a star and a beloved figure on the team rankled him a bit because he felt like, look, this is a guy who's just getting started. He wouldn't be as productive if I wasn't on the field with him. That may be true, but it definitely seems to have stayed with Antonio. If you're right, he got everything he wanted. He's in Oakland. He's got the new contract, and yet it still bugs him that somehow in Pittsburgh he felt like he wasn't appreciated as much as he should have been. Looking forward, what's it mean for the Raiders? Obviously, this is a player that they're going to have to keep happy. Obviously, that's not necessarily always going to be easy. So another situation that people were watching closely, that as a result of all this, the scrutiny will once again only intensify.
All right, Dan Graziano, well done. Just craziness around the league as we bear down on the draft. We'll check in with you again soon. I want to get back to the basketball. Again, the coach of the championship team is going to join us shortly. But The Athletic recently conducted a poll among current NBA players about the most important topics and discussions in the league right now. It included the headline awards, like who is the MVP? And in that question, which Brian Windhorst voted yesterday live on our show for Giannis Antetokounmpo, the players voted for James Harden, with Giannis right behind him and Paul George third. I didn't want to focus on this because, look, this one is a toss-up anyway. I don't think anyone is going to be outraged regardless of which of those two guys win it. There were some secondary questions that I thought were much more interesting. When the players were asked who was the most overrated player in the NBA, there was a tie between Draymond Green and Russell Westbrook. That's the one I want to bring to the table. Wendy, you made an interesting observation when I showed that to you earlier today about Draymond.
Well, Draymond believes he's one of the most underrated players in the league, and he thinks he's one of the most underpaid players, too. So that one probably hit him pretty hard.
What do you think, Jalen? Is Draymond Green overrated or underrated?
Draymond Green is underrated. I've been watching Draymond Green since he was in high school. For those that don't know, he's from Saginaw, Michigan. He was a champion then. He overachieved at the university, at Michigan State University. He played there 4 years. And if you look back at his footage, he's changed his diet and he changed his approach and improved his jump shot. He was a second-round pick.
Yeah. Yep.
Now he's a 3-time All-Star and a 3-time champion and a starter on the best team in basketball.
Yes, but for how long? Because it does bring up an interesting question. Depending on how this postseason shakes out, what do you think Draymond's immediate future, Brian Windhorst, might look like?
Well, Draymond has pretty much yelled from the rooftops that he wants a contract extension this summer, which he is eligible for, and he wants a big one because he feels he is underpaid from his last contract that happened before the cap spike. The question is, with his body breaking down a little bit, and frankly, this last season and a half, his numbers have decreased as well. Will the Warriors be willing to give him the contract he wants? This is going to be a battle. We know because Draymond has switched agents and hired Rich Paul of Clutch Sports to go to battle for him. And the question is, if Kevin Durant leaves, will the Warriors retrofit their roster around the Splash Brothers and look to trade Draymond Green? Somewhere secretly in a drawer or in a locked file, there's a list of trade opportunities that the Warriors have come up with for Draymond Green because they are preparing for this moment.
And the primary person the Warriors might be trying to get in a trade, their dream scenario if they lose KD is?
They will call the Pelicans and make an offer for Anthony Davis. Now, the big thing about Anthony Davis is what happens with the Celtics. If Kyrie walks, do the Celtics make the premium offer? Because the Celtics can outbid the Warriors. They can outbid the Lakers. But if the Celtics don't make a premium offer, which frankly is possible if Kyrie walks, it brings in a whole lot of other scenarios. But any team that would trade for Draymond Green would inherit the exact same issue that the Warriors are facing. He wants to be paid a huge extension this summer.
Okay, but how much of his numbers do we credit to the fact that KD is there and that there's just not enough basketball to go around to maintain the numbers that he at one point in time had with his roster?
It's a legitimate question. The other question is, he is in such a perfect spot. Look, I respect Draymond like crazy. I agree with you. I watch the Big Ten every single night. He has made himself into a really good NBA player. But he's also in the perfect circumstance for what he does. What do you think of that? Next year, the Warriors could be no KD, no Draymond, no Boogie, and add Anthony Davis. Does that feel like a possibility to you?
It doesn't. The Anthony Davis part doesn't seem like a possibility for me. I agree that in their starting 5, I believe only the Splash Brothers will be returning next year. But when I look at that overrated list, a couple of things kind of stood out to me. One, Draymond and Russell are both abrasive, aggressive players. And so that's going to always rub guys the wrong way in a league where everybody seems to be friendly toward one another.
So this is personal, you think? These are guys taking little personal digs.
And if you looked at 3, 4, 5 in no particular order, those guys were on the same team starting this year. Jimmy Butler, Wiggins, and Towns. They were all on the same team.
They probably all voted for each other.
How about that? How about that?
But how is Russell Westbrook legitimately on that list? I think he's the most underappreciated player. What he's been able to do, 3 consecutive seasons of averaging a triple-double. We've never seen this before, really. And yet we sit there and nobody talks about him at all, and we say he's stat hunting or he's this. Look, Paul George and the benefit of what Paul George has done this year, some of that is to Russell Westbrook.
Sean, you know this. Playing at UCLA men's gym for years. I played out there for 15 years. You was there. Russell was there. I remember when they made it to the NBA Finals. I walked down to the court and gave Russell a hug and apologized for the way that the media was assassinating this man's character and talking about his game. Since then, he's become an MVP. He's overcome KD leaving. Paul George has stayed. Billy Donovan is still the coach. He's averaged triple-doubles for 3 straight years. He's become one of the best players in the game.
I have to break because Tony Bennett is coming out. We'll take a very short timeout, but after engineering the greatest bounce back in basketball history, and I think it literally is that, Tony Bennett, coach of UVA, cut down the nets last night, joins us live next.